Hello and welcome to Guitar Whisperer headquarters. There's a few guitars visiting for setups and repairs at the moment, including this rather lovely Aria Pro 2 SB1000 fretless. So if you've watched my other videos, you'll know by now that I really do like old Japanese stuff, and this, I guess, is one of the finest examples you could get of an 80s Japanese bass. Unlike my two Arias, this one was made in Japan by a factory called Matsumoku, who were highly regarded and thought of as the best factory for producing guitars in Japan at the time. I mean, incredibly well made things. Superb, wonderful, and they made guitars for a few people, including Weststone and Aria, and there's a few others whose names escape me at the moment. So this bass, this is ash here, this is maple, the stripes are walnut, I think. We've got a single humbucker, two passive controls. This is a slightly wobbly varitone switch, a bit like you get on some Gibson semi-hollows, but it's active, so this kind of clicks into position. There's a switch here which, when it's working, will light up this LED. A rather lovely bridge, which is unique to this one, quite different from a standard bent piece of metal Fender Precision bridge. Fretless fingerboard. I'm not sure if this has been defretted at some point, and then these filler veneers glued in to fill the slots, because I would normally expect on the maligned fretless that the dots would possibly line up with the frets. I don't know. Who knows? There's a nice bit of grain running through the fingerboard. I'm not sure what that's made of. Maybe ebony, maybe rosewood. Tuners are original. This truss rod cover does not look original. It's a piece of wood that's been cut to fill in that hole. The nut's missing. The strings are obviously missing. I haven't checked to see if it makes noise yet. There's a couple of little dents up here in the fingerboard, and there's one on the back of the neck around here somewhere, which is actually a bit annoying. So I'm going to have to do a little drop fill on them. Got some flat wounds coming to go on it. We need to check the circuitry, tighten up the controls, possibly clean the bridge, get it all set up. I was genuinely excited when this came out of the gig bag on its arrival at my house. It's absolutely gorgeous, I think. It's quite heavy. The body feels bigger than a P bass, if that makes sense. The horn's a bit longer, the body seems slightly wider as well. It's not unpleasantly heavy though. I mean, it just feels super solid. Oh yeah, also it's a through neck, so all these laminations of maple and walnut run continuously down here into the body and out to the end. Isn't that gorgeous? Very typical of the construction of the time, but also very, very well done and executed. So I'm going to start taking things off and looking inside things and see where we are. Well, on my first investigation I've found some interesting stuff. I mean, on any regular guitar generally, the back plates are made of plastic and they're held in with wood screws. On this one, because it's an active bass and it takes batteries, instead of having the little plastic battery chamber thing, which always looks a bit cheap and nasty, we've got an aluminium, I think, rear cover, anodized aluminium. This side is held in with the wood screws as normal. The other side is held in with little bolts that go into threaded inserts in the body, and that's so you can get this half of the control plate on and off easily without knackering any threads and the thing going wobbly. And then inside, so it just gives you access to the battery compartment, which has two battery connectors. I'm guessing that makes it run an 18 volt as opposed to 9 volt with twice the lifespan, but not that it really matters. We'll pop some batteries on that in a bit and see what happens. Quite glad to see that there's no batteries in there, because when they get left in for many, many years, they often start leaking and then dissolving things, which we don't want. There's like a plastic box here with a ribbon connector as well, so we'll pop the other side off in a sec and see what's in there as well. Started doing a few little drop fills on the fingerboard here, using, so I'll show you properly, water thin CA, also known as runny super glue. There's a whip tip on it, so we can get the stuff in without squirting it all over the place. Just going to do little small drop fills, thin layer at a time until those are built up, and then we'll very gently sand them back. Wet sand them, polish them, that sort of thing. Having a little go at this piece of missing veneer as well, but I don't think that's going to fill, so I might just leave that. And there's a little dink on the back as well, we'll get that later. It's a slow process this, but it does come out very nicely when it's done. So, going to leave that to cure for a bit, and I'm off to eat some dim sum, which is the best way to do Sunday lunch ever. Buns.
That's so good.
Things. More things. There we are, and yeah, fantastic. And tea. Replacing the nut then. Upon measuring the width here, it turns out that this is quite a bit wider than a standard Fender, which is not a bad thing playability wise, but it means that one of the pre-slotted Fender ones, which are great quality actually and decent price, it won't fit. So there doesn't appear to be an off the paper one that does fit, so I'm gonna cut one from scratch from this big piece of tusk artificial bone apparently. It's good stuff though, it's a synthetic, and it works well and it's nice and slippery. So I've got my nut making stuff here, scribey thing, special ruler, calipers, and we'll crack on with this now.
The accommodation it provides is fully compliant with the contract, and it's regularly inspected by the Home Office. It said the company has received positive for asylum seekers, something it says is challenging and demanding. It says it's confident that it's providing good could be in for a long wait, up to 2 years.
I just want my paper. I just want the leave to remain. So
If their claim has been outstanding for 12 months or more, the Home Office says that there is permission to work. However, they say permission to
Would, to start with, give them a means of generating their own income. So
you're not really broken. Let's say after you there was your once you
the law in the UK says usually if someone steals into anger.
So here's some geeky stuff for you then. I've roughed out the blank to the right depth so it fits in the little slot by the headstock, and the right width, and more or less roughly the right height. It will be top dressed properly later, and I've put a little bit of an angle on the top as well. So now we need to work out where the slots go for the strings, because this is obviously an unslotted blank. So I had to get the calculator out and a pen and paper and work it out. I'll go through it quickly because it's pretty boring. Low E, from the edge there should be a gap of 1/8 of an inch between the edge of the fingerboard and the edge of the string, but then because bass strings are so thick you need to take the thickness of the string into account, so I've added on half of the thickness of the low E, which gives me 0.175 of an inch, which I'm going to put on here. The high E is slightly different because the strings are different width. And then what you have to do, you have to get one of these special rulers, because you want to have equal gaps between the edges of the strings, not equal gaps between the centres of the strings, because that looks weird when it's done, because the strings are different widths, and then that will give you different gaps between the edges of the strings. It would probably still play absolutely fine, to be honest. So you use one of these special nut slot rulers which have a load of holes in, but they're closer together at this end than at this end. I mean, we'll be using this side, so far apart, not quite so far apart, and that lets you space out the centres. It's a whole world of geek, isn't it? Anyway, let's get some marking tools out and mark these up. Okay, that's the outer two slots, well, their centres marked anyway, so then I can now go ahead and work out where the two in the middle are going to go using the fancy schmancy ruler. And it's going to be actually, yeah, the widest markings on this ruler, because it is a pretty wide neck for a full string. Right, that's the slots, their positions marked anyway. I'll start the cuts off with a razor saw, and then we're going to start working up through different nut files. I've got a mark on this side which shows me roughly how deep the slot should be, but that's only a guide. We'll get it set up on the fingerboard. With a fretless, the slots are much lower than they are on a fretted bass, because we don't have a first fret to clear, or any frets to clear. This is sometimes a thing you find with production fretlesses, and they've just slapped in the nut from their regular fretted models, and it doesn't really work. Well, it works, just not very well. To get a nice low action and that lovely fretless wah sound, you need to get the slots and the nut virtually so low that the strings are almost touching the end of the fingerboard. Not quite touching, but nearly touching, which is a lot lower than a regular nut. So that's what we're going to aim for. So we'll start them off anyway, and then we'll loosely attach it to the bass, and then we'll see how we're doing. The way I like to do these slots is, I've got a whole set of nut files here, but I start off with thin ones, and I'll do all the slots with a thin one, and I'll gradually start widening all the slots up till they're all about right for the thinnest string, and at that point I'll move on to the next one up, and I'll do those 3 remaining ones, open them up all up to the width of the next one, and then so on and so forth. So you're doing it very gradually. It saves fret files wandering about and making wonky cuts and stuff if you do it gradually, and you get a much more accurate result at the end of the day. String slots roughed out, and let's get out on the bass now and get some strings on there and see where we are. Do a bit of measuring, do a bit of checking, and then we'll get them all to the right width and the right depth. These are the strings that are going on, by the way. D'Addario XL chromes 45 to 100, regular light gauge, warm and mellow, just like me. So yeah, these are going on. They do a better job of preserving the fingerboard than round bound strings, because they don't chew it through the finish and into the wood, and they sound lovely, and they feel nice under your fingers. So good choice, I think. Well, it's a good thing I actually looked properly at the packet of strings before I opened them, because it turns out they're the wrong length. They're medium scale and not long scale, which is what this is. So they're going back, and I've ordered some new ones. So instead we'll crack on with flattening back these little drop fills that I've done here, making it all nice and smooth.
That was Tanya McCartney of Outstocking in Manchester, our safety reserve. They will say they're living up to the Disability Discrimination Act. But then there's also the idea of common sense as well. Having bread, people often say about this is the cost. But I guess most of the things that we talked about, that Tanya talked about, cost anything, you know.
Strings have turned up. The right strings have turned up after I accidentally ordered the wrong ones and sent them back, and they're on. D'Addario Chrome flat wounds, which I've got on a few of my own basses, and I really like them. They're flat wound, but they've got a little bit more zing than things like Labellas and Thomas Steaks. They do wear in and play in very slowly, so they get more mellow over time, but No, they sound great, and they'll suit this bass really well. So, I thought I'd have a look at the electronics then to see if it's making a noise now. And it's not. Not when it's plugged in. So this is what we've got in the back. I'll do a close-up shot for you in a minute. There is a lot of wiring. At the moment, well, this is a good trick actually. Before you start trying to tear into things and you don't really know what you're looking for if your electronics aren't working, try this. Stick a lead into the output jack like this, and then put a multimeter over the other end of the lead, and I've got this set to 20k ohms, and then see what sort of reading you get. So this is currently reading nothing, as in there is no circuit, there's no continuity. It will come up with two types of reading. It will either give you something like anything between 5 and 10k, which means it's probably working, or you might get no ohms, which means there's a short circuit somewhere, or you might get no continuity, which means there's a break in continuity somewhere. So at least you go into these things with a bit of an idea about what you're looking for. So yeah, this one is reading no continuity. So somewhere in here there is a break in continuity. I haven't got the batteries fitted yet. Maybe that will make a difference. I'm not sure about. Maybe before I start tearing into things up, dig out some old batteries and put them in. But yeah, there's a lot of wires. There's this, which I'm guessing is the preamp, the active preamp, which fits in its little recess there. There's like a 6-position varitone switch, which is here and also slightly loose, which isn't encouraging. There's this. I don't know what that is, but it's wrapped in insulating tape, and a bunch of other stuff. So the first thing I'm going to do, I think, is to see if I can get a reading from the pickup to make sure that's got some kind of DC resistance, so which I'm assuming is this one here. So yeah, let's see what's happening. So here's a close-up. 2 battery clips, so 18 volt will go into it. This is the preamp, which has got this ribbon style connector going into it, and then there's how many wires coming out of it. Oh, I don't know, about 10, which go to various places. This is the varitone thing, which has got a bunch of different caps attached to it, like varitones do, which knock out different frequencies. This is the thing that I haven't uncovered yet. Volume, I guess, passive tone, rather complicated looking output jack, and yeah. So I'm going to do some gentle untangling and see what I can find out. Well, I've measured the pickup on its own and it came to about 10k, so that's brilliant. That means it's working, as far as we know. They look like a soap bar, these pickups. They're not though, they're actually more of a precision type pickup, which is then sealed into the casing using epoxy and things, so it is possible to get them repaired, but I'd rather not. Interestingly, I was playing last night in the Bayside Boogeymen, and Paul, who plays bass for the Bayside Boogeymen, is such a bass nerd, which is very useful for me at the moment. He's got a big collection of basses. He's got 5 of these, which is, some people would say, is too many. I'm completely down with that sort of thing. But we had a big discussion in the car about basses in general, and these particular ones, and also the electronics. And he said it's all repairable, but it is very complicated. There's people out there that can sell you replacement bits for pretty much all of this stuff, or rewind the pickups if you really have to. He also said the active varitone bit basically sounds a bit shit. The passive tone is fantastic, sounds like a P-bass. But the active thing doesn't really make it sound any better. He said most of the positions make it sound worse. So one option would be, and this is what I would do if it was mine, I would wire it up, the pickup straight to the volume and the tone, bypassing everything else, so it just works like a P-bass. Still leave the lovely chicken head knob on, because it's super cool, but it wouldn't do anything. I mean, if you really wanted to, I could just wire up a battery so it makes the red light come on as well. But yeah, so that's one option. I'm gonna have a look anyway, see if there is an obvious bad joint in here or something, and see if I can get it fired up in active mode. But if I can't, I'll see what the customer wants to do. I always say that, don't I? Oh no. There would be obviously quite a bit more expense and time involved getting components replaced and things like that. And is there any point in doing that if it just makes it sound worse anyway? So, right, investigation time. I'm going in. First thing I'm going to do, I don't know what this is. It's got some fairly grungy old electrical tape on it, or whatever it is. Coming out, oh, I don't know. It looked a bit like mains cable at first coming out of there, but it's not. It's a shielded signal cable. Under these layers of electrical tape is what looks like shielding foil of some sort. It's well wrapped. Whatever this is. I'm going to have a look in here and see what's going on, and then I might re-wrap it a bit more neatly. What the hell is in here? I don't know. I mean, is this factory? One of the wires is going to the LED, which is on the front. The other wire is going to the input jack. So is this just a driver for the LED? It's a complicated way of doing it if it is. There's some sort of circuit board inside here. It's quite nice having somebody who I can call who was more of a nerd about these sort of things than me. Because I'm still none the wiser about what this does. I mean, I haven't got into it yet. It's a chunky little circuit board. So I've taken off the electrical tape, and now I've taken off all this sticky back foil stuff, and inside that there is more kind of heat shrunky stuff, which possibly is factory, and there's a circuit board in there, but I don't really know what it does. This doesn't look like original wiring. I think I might have to consult the internet on this one, or Paul. I love decoding things like this. Right, so that goes. So this shouldn't affect anything else. Maybe I'll just do a little bit of insulation on this bit, just to be on the safe side there. Well, a small amount of progress has been made. Turns out that is the LED driver. I've fitted 2 batteries to this, just to check it. And then I plugged a lead in, and then the LED on the front is flashing. I don't know what that means yet, but it's definitely flashing. So this control board here must have something to do with that. But yeah, I've cleaned out this connector here with deoxit. That hasn't made any difference. But look, on the internet I found the original manual for the circuitry that came with this, and in a couple of other instruments. Enjoy the gig with Aria Pro 2 manual noise killer circuit. So it's got all the blurb and stuff, look, and diagrams and schematics. No, I don't know you want that one. This is the one we want. And from a quick read of it, it looks like the active circuitry is always engaged when the bass is plugged in, and the switch just turns on the the varitone bit, which is this thing, because there's a load of waffle about low impedance outputs driving cables better. Right, I think I should probably do some more googling and find out why the light's flashing. Back in a sec. Well, after much head scratching and looking at the internet, I discovered that the LED is supposed to blink all the time, because reasons. And I also discovered that the pots are, you can't get replacements for them because they're a weird dual gang thing, and I was on the verge of messaging the owner and saying I'm gonna rewire it as a fully passive bass, when I noticed one wire was disconnected, one of the wires coming from the pickup, so I fixed that. It's in here. So it was one of the wires coming from the pickup and going to the little switch there, and bugger me backwards, it works. Hang on, let's put this on. Can you hear that? So that made me very happy. The varitone doesn't work. I don't think that's a massive loss, as Paul, who knows more about these things, has told me it's pretty shit anyway. But the passive controls, as they were, do work. It makes lots of noise, and yeah, I'm going to button it all back up now. Well, this end of it, and then have a look at the first fret action. Well, it would be the first fret action if it had frets, but you know what I mean. Nut slot heights. And then we're nearly done. I'm quite chuffed about that. We're on the final lap. I just checked to see what it sounded like on my posh little amp downstairs, instead of the crappy workshop amp, and the varitone works. Well, it does what it's supposed to do. It's not a brilliantly useful control, but anyway, it's doing what it's supposed to do, so that's nice. All that's left to do really is get these nut slots down to the right height. So I'm going to crack on with that now.
Yes, absolutely. So you're saying that a large number of people will finally get through?
Institutions are not listening to their staff. Frequently, where this happens in institutions, you will find regular members of staff telling their university managers and leaders, this is a bad idea. We should not enrol these students onto this course because they will struggle and we will also struggle to teach them.
He says, and I'm going to quote him, he says that the clear majority of seminar groups that I have taught do not have the requisite language skills to be successful students at a walk straight into a British university. Surrey Group Vice-Chancellor says she doesn't recognise our insider's description of how agents operate.
The reality.
If there are students, college students who go on to do their foundation degrees as well, home foundation degrees, who have different requirements, and our job is to help them.
Okay, that's the slots taken down to the right depth. I think I said before, didn't I? You get the slots much lower on a fretless instrument than you do on a fretted instrument, to the point where the bottom of the slot is like pretty much nearly level with the top of the fingerboard. I mean, very, very tiny amount above it. And it makes it play better, but it also gives it more of the moi sound that you want from a fretless. So they're all now all the right width and all the right depth, and I'm just going to do a bit of tidying up on it, make it look nice. Getting to use my new fancy precision vise for the first time, which I got for doing just this sort of thing. It's rather lovely. Just top dressing the top of the nut down. Ideally you'd want the slots to be half the depth of each individual string, so you've kind of got some of the string poking out the top of the nut. This does change depending on the gauge of the string, but it's a good thing to aim for.
The vast majority of groups bought on Renals, Gordons, Booths and Tanqueray were all producing high-grade gins by 1830. The first aerated tonic water was patented in 1858. It was slow to take off until the British living in the Far East.
We're done. The nut has been tidied up and glued in place. Action has been tweaked, as so has the truss rod. So it's a lovely low action with a great wah sort of sound to it. Intonation has been checked as closely as I can, because there's no frets obviously. So I do a thing where you put your fingernail at the 12 fret marker to see if it's playing in tune, and it is. The electronics are working. Adjusted the pickup height as well. We did those few little fills earlier on as well. There's a couple on the fingerboard and one on the back of the neck. There we go. Gorgeous thing. Rather jealous that it's not mine, but anyhow. It might look like it's a massive pain in the ass doing these old ones, but I love the process. They're such nice instruments to work on, and working out what some Japanese designer was thinking 45 years ago is always a bit of a challenge, and rather good fun, I think. Anyway, thanks for watching this one. See you soon.